Hey, welcome everybody.
Hello.
Appreciate you guys joining us for the very first Cyber Bulls weekly space. We're going to do this every week on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. And, if anybody wants to join, please come on up, raise your hand. We want to be much more interactive. When we started doing Cyber Bulls about a year ago, we always did it live and we used to have so much fun with the interaction. And so this is our way to speak to folks. So come on up in the panel and join us. So let's whatever topic you guys want to do. Alexandra, how are you doing? Are you on vacation?
I am in Vegas. I'm loving it. I haven't been here for 6 months because we had to postpone the one in July. Usually we come every 3 months, and it's great. It's still hot. Less people than about 6, 9 months ago. It was crazy. Remember this post-COVID period when I was always going on, and I can't believe how people are still spending so much money on travel. That has clearly cooled down. And then add to that we're staying at an MGM resort at the Vdara, and they are still 10 days after the cyber attack. I mean, it's crazy how little is working. Like the keys for the rooms are not working. The casinos are nearly empty. Yesterday, somebody told me, I'm not sure this is true, but if it's true, it's hilarious. The moment the cyber attack happened, in all MGM casinos, all the machines were, so all the people that were playing then won. That's why they cut the machines. And so as of today, some of the machines are up, but you can't do anything with a MGM card anymore or with a credit card. You only can gamble with cash. And I was this morning watching for half an hour. I'm usually not spending time in those casinos, but I was watching them, and first of all, how few people there were, because obviously people who gamble must know that this is sort of a post-crisis moment and there's not much in the machines. And then I saw nobody winning. I mean, for half an hour, there was nobody going to the few cash points that were open. It's actually sad, these casinos, when they're three-quarters empty, it really looks like, so strange, so weird.
Yeah.
Restaurants are still full, hotel seems fairly full, but it's all a bit of a mess. And then the whole roads and everything is in building mode because in 2 months is the first Formula One circuit here, middle of November. So the Formula One has signed a 10-year contract with Vegas, and they will come every year in November and have their tour here. So the whole city is investing like crazy in road improvements and cameras and everything you need for these events. It's a little bit of a mess. I'm not sure it was the best moment to come, but I'm enjoying myself. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So talking about gambling and the economy, let's brings up two questions. Are we gambling with Tesla? And is the economy still hanging on? And are we going to see a boom coming up? So who wants to start with that? Come on, Zach. Do you consider it a gamble?
Why are you picking on me?
Well, you
I,
like to
I,
play. You like to play a little bit on the edges. You do gamble with the options a little bit. We call that gambling, right? A little bit of it, right?
oh no, it's definitely gambling. That's what we say. I think that we have a good opportunity to load here, and I just think it's undervalued for what they're going to become. But short term, it's more, it's very choppy. So I sold calls today near high of day, closed it at the end of the day, scalped a little bit. This morning I was actually, don't hate me, buying puts and then closed it within 3 minutes. So just like catching little waves, scalping here and there. So I just use Tesla because I know it and I have a feel for the stock to do the short term stuff. But and just buy shares with the winnings, so to speak. But we really need macro. Tomorrow's the FOMC. We'll find out if there's a rate change and if, we'll see how he sounds. But until you have that kind of all clear from the inflation side, I don't think we will rocket in any kind of way until that happens, unless there's like, FSD breakthrough and and then it's off to the races. But Wall Street doesn't want to quite give us credit that those upgrades have been helpful, but it's you see the pushback that we have. So curious what you guys think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because I like to debate this because I don't think it's a gamble at all. So I know Christian might say something differently. So should we set up a debate format to see, if it's a gamble?
All of life is a gamble.
Okay, keep going.
No, I like, I know where you come from. I like what Xander said. No, I think in the long term, I've had to kind of rearrange my brain with Tesla, right? Getting involved with it 2019, it had that explosion. I think now it is more of a sit and wait and more of a patient game. So you got to change your strategy now from, you know, calls or buying leaps. In my opinion, it may still work, but my strategy now is it's a more of a position to accumulate on lows. And if you're going to plan to hold it, to wait for all these breakthroughs, whether it be FSD or Tesla bot, my favorite, to happen, you're just going to have a different mindset with it and just accumulate actual shares and just play the long game. I think that's the way to do it now. I agree with Xander. I don't think you're going to see these major runs, especially with interest rates so high, and Tesla being uniquely, compared to the other mega cap techs, really uniquely hurt by the interest rate hikes because they sell cars. So it directly hurts their business. It directly goes at their earnings per share, and it just really complicates it more than any other mega cap tech names like a Google or Apple or Amazon or whatever you want to say. So that's the way I'm looking at it. So yes, I'm buying shares here. I'm accumulating shares. I got plenty of time to hold them. I don't need to sell them. I'm in no rush. So that's the strategy that I've taken up, and I'll continue with it.
Okay, see, this is where I disagree with you because I do think it's going to about to go for a run. Why wouldn't it go for a run? It already fell significantly. It's at a stage right now because it's already being, the high interest rates, the doldrum economy, all of this has already taken its toll onto the company. It's already projecting the same, $5 earnings per share for 2023. That's built in. Everything right now is going to be just a plus, and we saw the AI boom come up. We started to see everybody started to call Tesla now an AI company. Just this, we got the report recently from Adam Jonas. More and more analysts are calling it an AI company, especially how can you ignore it when they're investing so much on their supercomputers? You not call it an AI company by early next year when it's going to have the largest supercomputer in the world. It's about to take off because you saw where FSD is now, where the bots progress is. So I mean, like the downside is less likely because it's already taken the downside of the economy hit. That's my point. And so it's more likely it's going to have the run coming up. Jeff and Xander?
Well, real quick, we'll go to Jeff and Alexander. Herbert, the thing I'll say though is these things have to still play out. And what I'm saying is, yes, bullish long term, even maybe medium term. But remember, the stock hit 100. We've literally rallied. We've almost hit 300 on two separate occasions, right? That's a 200% increase off the bottom, right? So it's not like Tesla stock hasn't moved this year. It absolutely has. So what I'm saying, to expect it to go from, wherever it is now, 260, to make that jump to 500, say by, in 6 months or a year, I think it's still a bit of a stretch, or if it's a car business alone, unless you get some type of breakthrough. I'll just say there, but I love your points.
Well, okay. Now I have to say then, it was at 300, it fell to 100, and it went back up to 300, and yet the fundamentals have only strengthened since a year and a half ago. We've got multiple gigafactories on place. Everything's on path moving forward fundamentally. So other than the price cuts, which was the margin compression, that I think I wouldn't say, oh, it went from 100 to 300, therefore it's not going to keep going up. No, we're just back to where we were supposed to be.
Completely agree, Herbert. We should have never been at 100. We all know the reasons why we were at 100. So you can't say, Christian, we were at the beginning of the year at 100. We're now at 260. That's such a huge jump. We can't jump further. I mean, I just don't think the reference to the 100 is correct here.
I agree with you guys. The only thing I'll say real quick is the earnings per share is negative from year over year. So the cash flows of the business are going down. Free cash flow is going down. So yes, if you're just going to measure it on all the stories, yeah, it should be at 1,000, I guess. But if you're going to measure it on cash flows and discounting it back, the stock should be kind of where it is right now, fair value, because cash flows, free cash flow, has severely been impacted by the rate hikes.
Well, so that's a good question, right? I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm going to jump in here. What do you use to measure the stock? Are you using earnings? But this is not a stable company that's sort of existing for, for hundreds of years, and you already predict it. We're a growth company. We're really considered a startup because of all these new businesses that are coming. So if you're a startup, you don't look at earnings per share. Now, you look at the car business's earnings per share, but when you look at the other businesses, you look at like a startup. You're investing in it because it's a startup, but you don't care about the earnings per share for now.
Do I have permission to speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I think Herbert's right. You have to understand the barometer at which you're looking. You're looking at the company and what it is. Everybody likes to put Tesla in a conversation and take it out of context. And if you've done that throughout the entire, last decade, you've, potentially missed some of the run up, if not most of it. So I think it's got to be put in the proper context. Why is the free cash flow down? Well, they've squeezed margins to keep the EV adoption, march going, right, with all the rate hikes. And I think the bigger thing is they're investing a lot of money in R&D and projects, that are literally creating new industries, whether it's, on the network dojo side, on AI, whether it's on the bot, whether it's, the energy business. These are all high capital businesses, and that's where the money's going. So if you look at these other companies that you try to compare, anybody would try to compare Tesla to a classic auto company, like Ford's returning a dividend. They're not, where's the, big investment going? In GM, it's in this maintenance mode of, just generating cash, and they're saying they're doing all this R&D for EV, but they haven't produced any meaningful results. So I think it's important to put Tesla in context. And I'm not a big fan of if it's gone up this far, that means it can't go up. Because if you said that in 20, we all lived through 2020 and then 2020, it made a huge jump. So it's hard to call these things, right? I think 100 was an overshoot. I think 414 may have been an overshoot at the time, right? What was the multiple on that? 1,000. But now we're in a much different situation with the company and with its outlook. So I think it's going to be an interesting time in the next, 2 weeks. We're going to have a tactical Q3 view, and I think Tesla, ripped the Band-Aid off on that. Herbert and I went through that yesterday on the podcast, and I think they've ripped the Band-Aid. I think they've come out and they've lowered expectations. Now all the analysts have to catch up, and they will. But I also think they can also tell a story. I think it's going to be a huge Q4 and Q1. So I think it's going to be a very interesting time. And then, of course, you've got the Model 3 Plus launching, and you've got Cybertruck ramping. So this is a really interesting time. And like I said, I think we're within a 3 to 6 month window of announcing an FSD partner, someone that's going to buy Tesla AI. They're going to buy Tesla's AI solution from Tesla and license it from them. So I think it's a really exciting time. And then technically, the stock is in a very good position. If it can just get out of this 280, call it the 290 range technically, and break above that, it will have then broken a 2-year downtrend.
And if I may add, so for the free cash flow, because I'm always watching it, whenever results come, the first number I look for is free cash flow. You have to understand why they're today in a position where free cash flow is stagnating, yet still exists. They're really trying to solve two issues at the same time. Keep the factories working at the top maximum possible speed now, pushing out cars at the current speed now, which they do. If you compare it to any other car maker this year, they're the only one who maintain the rate or increase the rate of car productions. And at the same time, their research and development budget is obviously comparable to a tech company, not to a car company, even though they should, but that's another question. And it is the most efficient. So yes, what Jeff and in Dojo and all other costs, it is horrendous amounts, but it is the most efficiently invested. So between the two of them, whether you compare free cash flow to car companies or whether you compare the research and development budgets to tech companies, Tesla manages both of them in the most efficient manner to continue to grow at an extremely steady and high potential speed, while the biggest announcements are yet to come, and they can come in days, in weeks, or in short months. So no, Christian, we're not at a point where we have to say, oh, we already increased by 150% this year. It doesn't matter by how much we increased. It doesn't matter whether you compare it to a price on 1st of January or last year. It just doesn't matter. You have to see the company as it is, the whole potential it has in it, and how we're now only in the starting blocks. And another thing I want to add that somebody sent me today, and I found that was so well phrased. The one thing Tesla and SpaceX has is obviously Elon. All of us reading currently his biography realize he has the X factor, and it's funny that's actually called X factor, that nobody else has. So you can't just press the stock of Tesla, because it's the only publicly traded, into the normal way of thinking, because the accelerators he put in both the space industry and the car industry are able to anything else. You can't just reason with free cash flow or with earnings per share or whatever. It just doesn't work this way. So whenever we have the slightest doubt, or you think, oh my God, the chart shows it should now slow down or whatever, just forget about it. That's not how it works when you have an X factor founder doing the thing.
And I want to point out that the founder creates these opportunities, but it's the company that he created, and the company's continues is one after another in major breakthroughs, major offerings. Like, the bot just came out a year and a half ago, the mining company, the supercharger partnerships. Hertz announced that they're now going to allow the Tesla app. All of these things were planned years ago, and they're coming to fruition. And it's not just resting on one person's, I just think that it's a company that is created that is just now a behemoth that's now just moving faster and faster. It's an innovation company that he created. So yeah, we're like, every month that goes by that the stock stays flat, isn't it, the way I look at it, it's that much closer for it to skyrocket, because it's building up all these things that are just continuing to grow, now we have 3 years. 3 months ago we had 1 supercomputer. So okay, there's an additional value to that asset and to that, that ability for that to become a business, but yet the stock hasn't gone up. So it's like building, it's about to blow up.
Yeah, it will. And I agree with you guys. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying it can't go up. What I'm saying is maybe it'll go up a lot. What I'm saying is the market, you have to respect the market. When I think about it, I'm not thinking about it as an excited person. Oh my God, look at this, computers. No, that's not how it works. You need to see what the market's giving you. So what I'm saying is, you can have that feeling. But what I'm saying is, the way the interest rates are right now, and the way money is being sucked out of the system, and the way the Fed, we'll see a lot tomorrow with Powell, unless you can actually see something, right? The market is not giving Tesla credit. If I would have told you 3 years ago, Herbert, that Tesla would be sitting pretty much where it was 2.5, 3 years ago, what would you have said?
I'll just tell you this, that I do not look at the market, because as an investor, my goal is to be ahead of the market. I'm going to invest in companies where the market has kept the stock depressed, and I'm going, this is value. I'm not going to go, oh, wait until the market says it's good, then I'm going to put no, I'm going to do it ahead
So
of
I
time.
agree. That's why I said at the beginning of the space, I'm buying the shares, I'm accumulating them here, and I'm being patient. I agree with you. What I'm saying is, I'm not getting overexcited, because I just want to, it is an investment now for me. It's more of a buy and hold. It's more of that for me now, which it never was before in 2019. So I've changed my thinking in that. I'm more of your thinking. So I agree with what you're saying.
Go ahead, Xander. You don't have to raise your hand with us.
Well, I don't want to.
Since when do you raise your hand?
I don't want to interrupt. See, I like spaces because we can raise our hands. We don't need to talk over each other. I got a question for you, Christian. So I'm actually very surprised to hear you say that you're thinking about it as an investor, because you were just saying that the market is not going to give you. But the entire point is, what if those analysts are taken in and shown a bot, and they see a production line or whatever it is, and then they start chasing and re-rating, and despite macro and despite everything, they actually see it, right? We don't know when that point comes. Do you think about that? Is that what changes your perspective on the
No,
company? Or
no, I mean, Xander, I'm agreeing with everything. I love Tesla bot. What I'm saying is, I'm also a student of the market, right? I try to rationalize it out. I'm not saying I'm right. What I'm just saying, and we're just having a chat, that Tesla bot is still a little bit off. Now, we don't give institutional investors enough credit, I believe. Like, that some big money probably have seen Tesla AI Day. I'm sure some of them have. Like, check this out. They know the bot exists. It's just far off that any cash flow from it is still an uncertain moment, right? And we still haven't proven out the product. So when we, as Tesla, enthusiasts and Elon, enthusiasts, say Tesla bot is actually, a smash hit, it changes the game with labor. Ordinary investors and institutions don't have that same confidence. They don't know if Tesla bot is the game-changing product because it's still in early development. So I think that's the difference from someone that takes a realistic approach and someone that says, oh, we should be at 2000 already because Tesla bot's going to be worth 10 trillion. It's a different mindset. I think that moment will come, Xander, but I don't know if it's 2 months from now or 2 years from now or 5 years from now.
so are you looking for like a set of events to
Well, I'm not looking for any events. I'm
no,
buying shares in this level, and I plan to hold them for 5 to 10 years.
okay, but for the audience, like, so the rationale is your, because we're just talking about the bot, but the problem here is you have, next gen vehicles, you have AI, you have all the talk, you have insurance, you have so many energy storage, mega packs, all it just keeps adding up. So if we start seeing, is there anything where
So,
you're
so I'm excited about that stuff, but the way I see it, and then we'll get Jeff in. I'll just finish here. I agree with you. All this is exciting, but like the next gen vehicle, we talk about it. The next gen vehicle is not here. It's going to take 2 years before they probably produce the first car. Mexico hasn't started yet. I don't think anywhere Berlin or Austin have
Wait,
started on the next gen vehicle.
what?
So when is this happening? When
You're
is the
wrong.
next gen vehicle actually going to be
Wait,
sold to a customer?
Christian, didn't you read the book? The book said that Elon decided in May
I'm
to
only
start the,
halfway through.
yeah, he decided in May to start the next gen vehicle production or the test line in Giga, Texas. So we're not delayed as much as people might think.
That's fair enough, but we don't even have Model 3 Highland in North America. We're going to have the next gen vehicle in. Okay, I agree. Maybe all this stuff happens, and I want it to happen. I have a big investment in Tesla. I've been adding shares. We're just having a conversation that I think it's going to take a little bit longer than the rest of you.
I find it funny whenever Christians get in defensive, he says, "Oh, we're just having a conversation. We're just having a conversation."
No, it's okay. If we have other people in the audience who can come up to be on Christian's side too, please come up. Pepe, welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with these illuminaries, Herbert, Alexandra, Jeff, Xander, and others. Look, I'm probably the oldest pair of shoes in this closet, and I want to make two main points. One is, why am I in Tesla since 2017? Well, volatility is the price you pay for vitality. And I cannot imagine investing in another legacy asset other than Tesla. So how did I end up here? I come at this bullish position of mine from a strong leadership position that was hardened back in the 80s with Jack Welch and GE. Basically, if you didn't invest in GE in the 80s, you were an idiot. You were a pleb. 90s AOL, aughts Steve Jobs. And then when we got into the teens, there were some funny things going on. And the tipping point for me was after Steve passed and Tim took over. Remember, Elon reached out for a meeting. He wanted to sell Tesla for 10 cents on the dollar, and Tim wouldn't even give him a meeting. At that moment, I had all my wealth in Apple. I sold it and I bought into Tesla because Steve Jobs is very similar to Elon Musk. It is strong leadership. There is no better leadership. And if you're going to invest in legacy assets, I am telling you, Tesla is where you want to be.
Nice. Keep talking, Pepe. I like this.
Can't argue with that. Pepe, I got a question for you. I'm looking at your profile, and you follow a lot of Bitcoin people. Is that like another position of yours? What did you think of when Elon picked up Bitcoin for Tesla?
It didn't seem to make sense to me. I was a Bitcoin investor in 2018, 2019. Used to hang out on Clubhouse and so forth. And the issue I have with Bitcoin is all the experts are saying it's going to 100,000. It may go to 200,000. Great. Enjoy your 4X. Enjoy your 8X. I'm in Tesla because I know that whether the Cybertruck launches at the end of this month or Q1 next year, whether the Gen 3 comes out in 2025, Optimus 2025, 2026, it's coming and no one can compete. In essence, Elon has the rest of the automobile industry in a submission hold. I heard Jeff speak the other day where he was saying that it takes the best Chinese auto manufacturers in their home markets selling 4 cars to equal the profit of 1 car of Tesla. 4 to 1. And it used to be 8 to 1. So they think they're doing good. This guy, look, if you're going to bet on a donkey in a donkey race, bet on the one that looks most like a horse. Elon looks the most like a horse.
Nice. I like Tesla. Welcome up.
Hi guys, I'm driving. I hope you can hear me. I was listening to Christian, and he reminds me a lot about the investors that we used to talk to before. Like I think Herbert, you're in it since 2012, like me, and everybody said the same thing. It's like, oh, the Model 3 is years away, and this is years away, and we just invested in a passionate way. It was about the product. We thought the product was going to change the world. We liked Elon. We didn't know much about him. And as investors, we did really well because we had a passion for the product. And right now it's about the robots. It's about like things into the future. And that's why we're investing. And we were losing money. Like, I mean, it was burning cash and the stock. And we did pretty well as stockholders, holding just because we were passionate about it. And we weren't looking at numbers or what Wall Street. If I would have done what Wall Street said I should have done, I would have sold a long time ago. So not trying to pick up on Christian, but that's my point.
No, we should all pick on Christian.
100.
Definitely.
I got to keep
We
this
need all
room
help.
lively. If we just all somehow agree with each other, this call would be really boring.
No, I
Agreed.
think it's good to challenge, the timing of and expectations on things. I challenge things all the time, so it's okay to do that. So I don't have a problem with it. I think so. There's big events coming up for the company, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday. Herbert, like again, and again, I think there's confusion out there in the community of like Cybertrucks in production. We see a lot of trucks, and just in my mind, they're in production candidate. They may tell us at some point they're out of production candidate, or they may not tell us anything. But I think that's going to be a big milestone for the company. I think they are setting expectations fairly low, in terms of, it would be a big product line at 250K a year. But, obviously with these orders, and again, we have people that are ordering Cybertrucks as taxis. I don't understand why you would order a gigantic tank as a taxi, but there's people that are ordering fleets of Cybertrucks as taxi, trying to time robo taxis. But when all that kind of filters out, I still think it's going to be a multi-year wait list to get this product. And honestly, I'm not sure that's actually priced in and even being discussed seriously any kind of realms. Like, what other company is shipping a product with a 3 to 4 year wait list? I don't know of another company that has that. Now, the product needs to ship, it needs to meet all the specs. We need to hear all the specs. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised at all the specs, by the way. I don't think they've been messing around for 4 years. I think they've been sitting back, and they've not sitting back, but they've been watching all of the other announcements and making sure that when they ship a truly superior and timeless product, just like the Model S has been. If you think about the Model S, and shipped in 2012. First off, that they still have fundamentally the same body style, and from a performance perspective, when you think about either the cost per kilowatt hour, or you think about just the performance versus other cars in its class, it's not it's still not been matched by legacy. There isn't a legacy automobile that's shipping in the 70 to 80K range that has the performance and capability of a Model S, and that was shipped in 2012, and it's been refined over a number of years. So there's clearly something going on here when Tesla enters a new category. When they enter, we talked about the Model S, when they entered with the Model 3, and now this crossover segment, which is hugely popular all over the world and in North America. Now it's the number one selling car. Every time they enter a segment, they dominate it. So I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of expectations built into the stock. I don't know what the forward multiple is at this point. It's something between and 70, so it's not light. But I still don't think like a 3 to 4 year wait list and like industry leading product in a new segment, Cybertruck, I don't think it's even properly priced in. And I think Model 3 is going to get a boost. I think it's lower cost to build, it's sportier looking, and when it comes to North America and when it's a global product, I think it's going to get a relative boost versus its sales of its predecessor from the prior year. And I think some of the early sales. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. Just when you talk about automobiles, there's a lot to be excited about. We haven't talked about energy. We haven't talked about anything else. I'll come up for air there.
Welcome to the space, Omar. Thank you for joining me, joining the space with us. I was thinking that I might change if it's okay, if I change my profile to be your icon and I change my name, just put the W in front of the Herbert. So it's Werbert. And as soon as I join any space, I'm going to be immediately called up to the top, right? So anyways, we were talking about, is Tesla a gamble? What timing do you think might happen for the next run up? And if you don't want to talk about the stock, what are the new products you think that might be coming soon that excites you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Cybertruck. I'm excited for updates to the Model 3 and Y. And more than anything, I'm excited for FSD 12.
Wait, what do you mean by updates to the Y? Weren't you the one that said that this Y might be another year or two? Didn't you say that? Why would they do any changes to it anytime soon? Are you expecting something sooner?
Well, it's not going to take them 2 years to update the Y, that's for sure. They're going to want to keep everything standardized. I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but it won't be that long.
Yeah, I think they want to get through, the Model 3 updates in North America, get that going. I don't think it's a serial event either. I'm sure they have a design team working on the Model Y. I'm sure they're going to carry and copy over everything they can from the Model 3 Plus. So yeah, maybe it's in its fourth year of shipment. Maybe it's a late 2024 thing. But yeah, I think it's coming, or it could be the following year thing. I mean, but I think it's imminent. But yeah, the product is, again, it's the number one selling vehicle in the world. So it's at the same time, you almost want to understand, is that getting exhausted, or is that just continuing to grow every quarter? And does it need the refresh? Maybe in the fourth year, probably. I know they waited 6 years for the Model 3.
Is this rumor that the new revised Model 3 is going to come to the U.S. in January or the first quarter of this next year? Is that a kind of good sources that we're getting that from?
I mean, I have no idea, but I just decided to get a Model S and take advantage of the FSD transfer.
I saw that, and you're getting it immediately, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I need to get it before the end of the month to take advantage of the transfer, and I let the salespeople know that. So, I'm right by the Fremont factory, so they just have to make it, and I'll come over and grab it. But I think a lot of people are upgrading to the S and X because of, some of the updates we saw to the 3 and Y. For me, I just didn't want to buy it knowing that these updates are coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I think for me, and anyone could jump in on this. I think for next year, right? I don't know if Model 3 will have the 7,500 credits, but like right now, like certain states, like New Jersey, right? You get the 7,500, and then you get the state if they have also a EV tax credit. So you could wind up buying like a new Model 3 for 30 grand. Like that's like an insane value level. Does anyone expect, and I know we've talked about it, but like seriously, that is crazy value. At what point does Model 3 not start to accelerate in the United States again with this, especially in the states that have the credit, and if they have the 7,500, getting a Model 3 for almost like 30 grand, and then you have all the savings with the gas and the oil changes. I've been harping on this. Like, why is that not talked about more as like a game changer already in progress, already being made? I mean, to me, that's like just extraordinary value, and I don't know why they can't sell more of them. I don't, if we can have a chat about it.
I think they're selling. We went through that report. One of the things that Tesla told Deutsche Bank is they don't have enough inventory of cars. And this is like, again, we sit here we're on Twitter and we see all these, amateur chartists of inventory. It's like it's the highest inventory ever, and not really understanding the sales velocity, not understanding the production velocity. Here, Tesla comes out and says, "Look, half the cars that we had in inventory were in transit going to customers." That means the 16 days of inventory is really 8 sellable, and maybe not even 8 sellable. Maybe it's there's already some of that's already in transition. Maybe it's 6 or 7 weeks. It's nothing. 6 or 7 days. It's nothing sellable. So they may have an inventory problem, meaning not enough inventory of cars to sell. I mean, we don't know. We're going to hear more at the end of Q3. I know it sounds counterintuitive, right? With all everybody kind of taking their numbers down for Q3, but the numbers are down for Q3 too because production is down. But I actually think that they still don't have enough sellable inventory, and hopefully we'll get an update, at earnings when they talk about that. 7 days, 8 is not enough sellable inventory. You're going to have stockouts everywhere. People are going to be looking for a car and not be able to buy it. So, but yeah, I mean that's what I think. But I think it's doing well, and I also think people think that there's an update coming to the car, so that may do something to sales in certain areas as well. So there's a lot of factors I think happening. I don't know what we're talking ourselves in or out of. I think it's selling. I think it's selling well, but I think we'll get an update this quarter. And again, they're going through a product transition, so that also causes some weirdness in the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the Model 3 and Y are still better than anything else on the market. So, you really only have to compare Tesla to find something that, is better or worth waiting for. But the fact that you can now, I mean, like some of these inventory Model 3 are like 37,000. With the tax credit, if you qualify, that gets it under 30,000. Some of the state incentives are thousands of dollars on top of that. I mean, we're talking about the first car with self-driving software that you can buy and bring home with you starting at $25,000 to $30,000. I mean, this is an insane deal. Like, you'd almost be stupid to buy anything else, especially when you look at gas. It's now headed over $100 a barrel. I mean, it's not uncommon here in California to see gas prices, $6 higher. It's crazy. So you look at the fact that this car is starting at $25,000 to $30,000 after incentives, and then we've got the point of sale incentive next year. And then you look at the fact that you have all these gas and maintenance savings, which grow greater every day as the price of oil rises. And I mean, it's that, more people really need to know about this. I think the only hurdle they have is really their comfort with electrification, their their kind of discomfort, right? Their lack of understanding. But when you show people the product, when you explain what it could mean to their life, they just go, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And there's a reason they're, topping the sales charts all over the place. The Model 3 is now on the top 10 most leased vehicles in the United States. The first time an EV's been on the list. And Tesla, has never been that high on leasing. They're climbing the sales charts worldwide. And, I think it's only going to accelerate with these new updates. There probably is a lot of pent up demand. But even still, there isn't really an option for anything better on the market.
To your
Omar, can
point,
you?
Omar, and I want to just say real quick to your point and what I just said, and you said it way better than me, more eloquently. I asked my dad, they're in the market for a car. I said, why don't you get a Model 3? They don't drive a lot. And again, it's the education part. Again, let's take off advertising off the moment. Here's the actual conversation. Hey, Dad, why don't you get a Model 3? Oh, they're too expensive. I'm like, no, with 7,500, you can get it for 30. Oh, really? He's like, where am I going to charge? I'm like, do you have a garage? He's like, yeah. Well, you could charge it in your garage. He goes, oh, that's right. I mean, there is still such a lack of education in the ordinary, especially in the older community, that this car would sell so much more if they just understood. And again, that's just one conversation. I've had many of these type of conversations. To your point, they can put together the value and they're not comfortable with the setup, but it's not like it's rocket science, right? It's like you take a gas pump off and you stick it in the car. You take it off the plug and you stick it in the car. It's not that hard. It just takes a little transition in someone's head and it's there. So I agree with you. I just think if there's just a little, a twerk in the way we're thinking about it, they could do so much more.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point because there is this investment that has to happen into people. You have to teach them how to do it once and explain it to them, answer their questions, let them form habits for this sort of new way of doing something major in their life, getting around, right? And so you have to make that investment. But if you make that investment into people, 9 times out of 10, they switch to EVs and they don't come back. It's a one-way switch. So it's really interesting. I think we're at a tipping point in the market, really. In the early phase, the EV customers were the early adopters. They were the guys who lined up for the iPhone to be one of the first to get it. They were, the ones to sign up for new technologies, try things, and they were willing to learn, to experiment, to research, because that's kind of their personality. Now the product is ready for a new phase of adoption. We've gotten the price down. We've gotten to 50,000 superchargers. We've gotten all these things, all these ducks in the row ready for real mass market adoption here. And, now we're sort of moving into this different phase. I think EVs are like 8% of the US market now. We're moving out of that early adopter phase and really into like a mass market phase. And so the product's ready to unlock this new phase of growth, but the customers, different strategies are probably needed to sort of unlock that from a consumer level. I think really electrification and sort of people's feelings around that and not knowing how to charge, simple things like that are really probably the biggest headwind that needs to be addressed.
Omar, let me ask you a couple of questions. You're selling or you're trading in your Model 3, that is the one we're seeing all these wonderful FSD videos of, right? That's the one you're switching to your Model S, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it for auction if anyone wants to bid on it.
Okay, that's good.
I'm trying
There
to
you go. Yeah, remember, but this one is not signed by Enon, right? So probably you're gonna have a little bit less
No, but
interest. But
I
I hope.
sign it even
Oh,
better.
good. There you go. Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions. Will the FSD version you get on the S be the same most current version that you had on the 3? And which of the Model S did you buy, the long range or the Plaid? And will you use it also to Uber with it, like you did with the 3?
I probably won't Uber in it. I mean, I don't usually Uber in my Model 3. That was, just like sort of occasional to test FSD. This car would probably be too nice. It's an ultra red Model S long range with a white interior and a yoke and FSD transfer. So just, with the Model 3 updates, it was kind of like I wanted to do FSD transfer because, it's amazing. I got FSD for 7,000. Now I get to move it to a different car. You're really like stretching out the value of those dollars you spent on FSD. And then, but I didn't want to buy the old Model 3 knowing there's a new Model 3 coming. So they lowered the S price. I said, maybe if you sort of look at the money saved on the transfer, it would actually be smarter to just get an S now. And they're giving all the colors free, which is fun. So you can pick any color you like, which isn't usually something we've gotten to experience with Tesla. So I said, all right, fuck it, I'll get a red one.
And why not? And why not the X? Was it because X has longer wait times, more money? What was it?
It's not more money, it's less money. That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, it's less money with the tax credit, but I'm just more of a sedan person. I've never had an SUV. I've never been an SUV person. It's got, more range, better driving. I love the X. I love the automatic doors. I love the windshield, but I'm just more of a sedan person.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
want to.
So
Who brought Earl up? Herbert
I was
or
going to say
Jeff?
that. So
This
first
is
of all,
gonna be
I was
this is
gonna say
gonna be a problem, right?
yeah, yeah. So first of all, I want to get John from Tesla Owner Silicon Valley up next, but a couple points. Yeah, who invited Earl up to speaker? But none of us can let him speak. Okay, do not ask him a question. Let him painfully sit there. I want to share a conversation I'm having on Twitter, which is fun. X. Amy said Tesla's an AI company, an EV company, a software services company, an energy company, and soon to be a bot company. So then I said, once Tesla's a bot company, then it becomes an everything company. And this guy, Rani, said, X is an everything app, and then Tesla will be an everything company. SpaceX is the everything up, and Boring Company is the everything down. Thought that was funny. All right, John, come on up. No one let Earl ever speak, okay? Come on in, John.
How's it going? Sorry, the spaces was in and out. Was there? Are we just talking what's on our
Yeah,
mind right
yeah,
now, or
yeah, nothing, yeah. Anything you want to talk about?
yeah? No, I think I think we're all kind of waiting to obviously see what the delivery numbers are for Q3. Partially because what's going to be happening is we know that they ramped up a bunch of the factory, or they ramped down a bunch of the factories, obviously for the refresh Model 3, which is now here. And then also too, I think we're just also kind of just waiting. When are they going to announce the dates of the new Model 3 hitting the US? I think that there is going to be a bunch of pent up demand, especially like I went to Tesla Corsa this past weekend, and a lot of Model 3 performance people are interested to see, how is this going to look? What's the next version of the Model 3 performance going to look like? What are the specs? And they haven't released any of that information yet, so it'll be interesting to see that. But then also too is just the Cybertruck. When is deliveries for that going to start? There's a lot of anticipation, and clearly we can see that they are producing them, and then not only are they producing them, but they are actually shipping them all over the U.S. I mean, you're seeing people post videos almost every day about that. And then, yeah, I mean, a huge milestone this past week, 50,000 superchargers, which is a big deal. And we were kind of joking. It's like, because like I'm probably, about 2 hours away from that actual supercharger, but whoever got excited over the 50,000 gas station or payphone. And when I found out the location, I think it was Sawyer who released the location, I texted two buddies because it was up in Roseville. And we sent a couple of members and people that we knew that lived in that area to go check it out, take pictures. And then I think even at one point, there was a Cybertruck that did it. So it was pretty incredible. But yeah, those are just kind of some of the small things that I've been just thinking about.
Yeah, since no one of importance has their hands up, Omar, Ryger just came up on the speaker board. He just posted that he's trying to convince his wife to buy your Model 3. That Model 3 that Omar is driving has a place in history. Imagine that, right? I mean, did you end up having the most miles?
No, Herbert,
Stop
he
this,
had
stop
sold
this.
that to Warren Redlick,
No,
the one that was signed.
Yeah, I know that, but this Model 3 friggin' that has a place in history. He's driven it like with full self-driving everywhere.
Yes.
Oh my
Probably the
God,
most.
Herbert, you're getting a commission again?
are you going to run an auction?
Herbert, he
Ryger.
drove the other one with full self-drive too. If that one would be more significant than the one he has now.
Well,
Nobody buys Omar's car, right? Nobody.
Ryger, you want
I
to
don't
buy his
think-
car?
I don't think it's
Why do I want to buy
historic.
his car?
Yeah.
I don't think
Because-
it's historic personally, but if someone wants to think it's historic and bid more, that's fine. But maybe
Sounds like Herbert does.
maybe we should let Earl speak.
Maybe
See what
I
he has to
should
say.
buy
No,
it. I'm in the
no,
market for
no.
one. What are you selling it for?
I cannot speak ever.
the reason I want to buy it is because of all the videos that Omar made in San Francisco with that Model 3, I want to start making videos with that Model 3. That's the only real reason.
Yeah, some say it's magic.
What's your price, Omar?
Bidding starts at $20,000.
Okay, nobody else bids. Let's get the Raja to have it at 20,000. Nobody else bids.
You
You
understand?
stop
I
it.
have to convince my wife that I have to convince the boss that she has to give me permission to buy it. That's the hard part. So if you all,
You understood everything about marriage. That's very good.
that's why I'm so happy, very happy.
Hey, so I was gonna just, you know, you asked a question about FSD transfer and what's. I just experienced that on the Model X Plaid, and I did get the FSD download. And what was surprising to me is before I got the FSD download, I was on 11.1, which brought in a bunch of new features that I haven't seen forever because I've been on an FSD branch. So it has search in the menus. It's got a bunch of UI updates in the menu. It's got a bunch of different, even small features that have been added. So when I got the FSD, the 11.4.4 download, I thought I was going to wipe all that away and put me back on the old, menu, old features, and it didn't. It left 11.1 intact, and it downloaded 11.4. It's kind of like, this is the FSD update, and 11.1 remains. So I still have all those features that ship with the new, S and X, I guess everything. And I got 11.4.4. And I will say one thing: I've done a couple of FSD drives, and there's still some of the same, bugs. It's not surprising, but it's smoother. It's recognizing light changes faster. It's recognizing, like, if a yellow light's in the distance, it feels like the car's slowing down and seeing things earlier. So I'm not having these abrupt stops and abrupt starts. It is a noticeably smoother drive than the exact same vehicle I had before on hardware 3, and then the current hardware 3 Model S I'm driving as well. So it's been pretty encouraging so far in FSD.
Yeah, I'm super excited to try hardware 4.
Yeah,
Earl,
I
what do
think
you
it's
have to say?
perceiving things faster.
You should hold on to that Model 3 until you get version 12 on it, and then you sell it. Holy cow, you'll be the first person version 12 ever, non-employee, right?
Omar, so you shared that transfer within the app, which I didn't realize that they were doing. Do you think that maybe anyone that proceeds with that within the app, even if you don't get delivery by the end of the month, they'll allow it? Because it seems like, it wouldn't be in their best interest because you'd cancel it, wouldn't you, if you can't transfer it, or you'd keep it?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them, but I think you have to take delivery before the end of the quarter.
Seems like a gray area to me, but we'll see, I guess.
So when you sold yours, Jeff, they took the FSD off at the moment. Did you trade it in with Tesla, or did you trade it?
Yeah.
Did you sell it?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
they told me I had to. But I asked them because I said, "Hey, I'm getting another quote for my car. Yours sucks." And they're like, "Well, all right." So if you don't trade it in with us, we can't do the transfer. Like, oh, that seems like a new rule, but that's what they said, and wasn't going to fight them. And basically, they came. Their offer was pretty close to the other offer I got, and then you get the tax reduction, off the new car by trading in a car in Illinois. So I went with them. But yeah, they do you basically, at least at the time, they sent you a PDF form, you sign it, you send it back to them, and then they take care of the rest of it in the actual app, when you're purchasing. And then when you get there, they take your trade in, and then literally there, like, basically when you hit accept in the app for the new vehicle, they complete the FSD transfer. And it was there. I saw it in the menu. I didn't download FSD beta because it wasn't available for hardware 4 cars at the time I picked up, but I saw that the car was FSD beta enabled, when I picked it up. So it was a very smooth process, actually.
Since no one's asking to speak right now, let's have Cyber Steve come up. If Earl ever does speak, I'm going to have the joy of muting him. I'm going to be able to say,
I
got
don't get
to
it. Why
mute
don't
him.
we just let him speak?
Oh, maybe. We'll string him along a little bit. Let's go Cyber Steve first. I'm sure he's got better information.
What a
more
great
incredible.
with Steve, Cyber Steve. I love it.
Let's go Cyber Steve. Uh-oh.
Oh, there, sorry.
There he is. Good. I was just about to go curl, but okay.
Yeah, I just
good,
got one question. I'm sure it's kind of been asked, but I saw that Tesla is trying to ramp the Cybertruck to 100,000 orders by 2025. I've never really been through the Model 3 ramp with the Model Y. I kind of came late in the game. I started following Tesla in 2020. So anybody that's been through the ramps before, what is your expectation knowing that Elon is trying to focus the Cybertruck more on precision versus ramp because they're not in a we need a ramp to survive mode? Because I'm trying to get an estimated time of when I might receive delivery of mine. And I'm like around 400,000 of mine. Thank you.
I think it's going to be kind of a slower calculated ramp. I think, the 3 and the Y are kind of different beasts. I think the 3 was, still had a lot of like process issues of like, how they design their manufacturing solution. So that was a slower ramp, and then they had to build a tent. It was a number of things. And then Y was a lot of reuse from 3, but it was also during COVID. So there's just a lot of like extenuating circumstances. I think I think Cybertruck's it's a much more difficult vehicle to like from an engineering perspective to solve all these upfront issues. But I actually think once they solve all these issues and they get all the stations running at rate, I think it's going to run well for them in the factory. But I don't have a good feel for where they're at right now in terms of, we see trucks, coming out of the factory. We don't know if any of them meet Tesla specs yet. And so I think it's going to be, in short, I think it's going to be a slower calculated ramp. But I also think once they work through these problems, I think it's going to build well. It's going to be like a high gross margin vehicle for them in the factory. But I think if you think you're at 400,000 on the list, it's hard to say, right? Because you don't know which configurations they're going to start with first. Maybe you get bumped up, maybe you don't. But yeah, I think 400,000 is, more than a year away, probably, closer to 18 to 24 months. But again, we're going to really have to see how they start up in Q4 and how like really to me, the interesting quarter is actually going to be Q1 for me.
Yeah, I think Earl's been in Tesla jail long enough. Earl, you've heard the talk. What do you have to say? Go ahead, let Earl go.
Thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say when I did join, all I heard was you talking about adding a little twerk, whatever it was again. Like, what are they talking about? But it's great. I'm catching up. What a fine group we have here today. Omar, good luck with selling your car. I'm sure it'll sell well. I can tell you that, somebody bought the original Frunk Puppy car, which was also a piece of history. So easy sell there. They didn't want me to autograph it or even talk about that, but I'm sure it was part of the reason they wanted it. Is anybody talking about FSD? Can I talk about that for a second?
Only if it's positive.
2 questions. So one, does it read speed limit signs? Because when I come into my neighborhood, it shows the correct speed limit on the screen. Then it proceeds to go 10 miles an hour. So I don't know why it does that. If it's reading the sign and it gets it, why doesn't it apply that knowledge? Because I know it does it other times. And the second question is, if anybody has any insight into roundabouts and FSD struggles, I'd be happy to chat about that because it's the bane of my existence here in Alaska, where I have a great drive. It's so good now. I love it in city driving through traffic. It like assertively gets over. It's such a joy. And then I hit a little spot of the highway. It gets off the highway and proceeds to just blow right through the first yield sign into the roundabout, like regardless if there's cars or not. And I try to watch it and it sees the cars. There's a picture of them. I don't know if it just doesn't like me, but I've had to slam the brakes on there. I have very rarely had that experience in general with beta. I feel like it's almost never dangerous. Like it does dumb things from time to time, like it'll like maybe go too slow or something, but this is legit a problem and it's fairly consistent there, but then it won't do that. There's 4 roundabouts in a row and it won't do that in the other ones. Just like this one particular, I posted it stopped there for a person walking with their dog, no problem. But if nobody's there, no cars there, it just drives right in there. And, you can see in my video, I hit the brakes and like 2 cars go by. it doesn't seem to be a sensor issue. It's really fascinating to me, especially for it to do so well. Like, I really, truly love V11. I have enjoyed it very much up here. But anyway, any thoughts on
Herbert,
that? I don't know if
can
people
you
weigh
get
in on
Yaman in here, please?
No,
Lost. Is there a question here? Is there a question?
that's the
No, it was good
question.
feedback from Earl. Thank you for telling us your experience on FSD. That was valuable.
Ryan,
right,
did you
great.
want to ask a question?
Yeah, thanks, Herbert. Hey, Alexandra, Jeff, Omar. Hey, sorry about that. I was
Hi, Ryan.
having connection issues. No, my question, do you think the Cybertruck, the dual motor, is going to come out with hardware 4 from the factory? Maybe Omar, you could speak to that. I mean, maybe we're just speculating at this point, but
Yeah, of course.
okay, sweet.
I have a question. So the book's out. Isaacson, I think, did a great job. I'm only halfway through, but if anyone wants to share, I think it would be a good conversation. We got over 300 people in here. Was there anything about that book, if you finished it and you want to share? Everyone knows everything about Elon in here. Everybody on the speaker board knows everything about Tesla. Was there anything that surprised you or shocked you when you ended that book? Something you didn't know that you were like, wow, I didn't realize that? Or anybody want to share anything that they caught them off guard, that they learned something new from the book?
You'll spoil it for everyone.
Well, go ahead. That's why we're here. We're space to spoil.
Something that's not a spoiler that I was unaware of before really some of the interviews online was how he was bullied when he was younger, and that kind of formed some of his just development over the years. I wasn't aware of that, and maybe the fights that he got in, and just how violent of an area that he grew up in. That was pretty wild. I don't think that spoils anything for anybody, but
Were you aware that Christian gets bullied in the Chipotle line a lot?
I actually just found that out tonight.
Happens.
Especially
Hey,
when I order guac.
Hey, I'll throw something out there. So I tweeted a clip today, and I didn't get a little bit of feedback on it. But people aware that there's a mystery third and fourth bidder for U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel is basically up for sale. Cleveland Cliffs put in a bid. U.S. Steel makes steel, and they happen to have the stock ticker symbol X. Anybody have any thoughts on who the third and fourth bidder could be, or is it just
It's Elon.
it's nothing?
No, I think it could be Elon.
How much is it selling for?
I think it's a $7 billion company. I don't know what the bids are at.
Yeah,
It's
I think the
basically
market
like
cap's around 6-7 billion. He could probably swing that if he really wanted to.
probably going to buy it for 30 billion, like he did Twitter. Give him like 5x for it. Anyway, I found that interesting. If that happens. By the way, I don't think since everybody tracks every movement the guy makes, I don't think you're going to see his jet flying into Pittsburgh, but it has been flying into Cleveland a couple of times. So anyway, who knows what's happening?
In this case, this wouldn't be an Elon purchase, right? It would be a Tesla purchase.
Yeah, it could be a Tesla or SpaceX purchase
Right.
for sure.
So people freaking out right now about the stock price. It would not be an Elon purchase, in my opinion.
Well, would this be a benefit for space? I mean, think about how much steel and Tesla uses. So I don't see why it would be a negative thing. I mean, I feel like there could be some market advantages as well. Anybody have any arguments on that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's not uncommon for, a company that has tremendous consumption of a particular, product at a supplier to want that product, for themselves, and to think about their metallurgical capability, the scientists that Tesla have, and and are the ability to basically harness the power within that company and develop new. Basically, I think the reason Tesla or SpaceX would want to do it is they would want to move faster. They would want to figure out how to take the cost structure down even further than what the current OEM supplier partnership relationship is today. And again, once you buy and you have that company, you're not buying that commodity at some, you're making it now. So you're basically, you're not buying product from yourself at a margin. So I think it makes some sense. I just wonder if there's any counterpoints to that.
How would that work for X? The company, not the ticker, but for the ticker.
It's the
SpaceX would buy the U.S. Steel, and then they would sell X.
The ticker.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
not?
So buy out the company and make it not public.
Yeah, that's what
You know,
happens.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
you know,
Come on,
from the
Xander. You know this stuff.
I'm just working through it. Like
from the book, I think it just nothing new that I hadn't known, but it just confirmed that he has made these prognostications, and he turns out to be true. He turns out to be right. Like the one, of course, we've all heard about the vision only approach to FSD, but the one about, this debate he had with his executive team about, should I create just a robo taxi only, or should I, protect ourselves by make sure that we have one that's a Model 3 car that I can sell. He might turn out to be correct. He might be that timing wise, and 2 years from now, it might have been a mistake to even try to create a car to sell. He could have just made it all robo taxi, because we might even get there at this point based on FSE 12 if that all works out correctly.
Why is that a mistake? Like, why people want to? I want to drive a car. I still want to drive. So why is it a mistake to sell a car for $25,000 so people can drive?
Herbert's a futurist. He's dreaming in the clouds. Herbert, in the book, very smart people, right? Like it's the name's escaping me. Told Elon, why not do both? He doesn't have to make a bet, an all-in bet on something, right? Why not do it where you have to at least another line, right? Because I know you think everything's going to happen 100%, but there's something called probabilities in this world, and there might be a probability, maybe a small one, that things take a little bit longer, like they already have. You should have a little bit of a plan on the side. So I agree with that strategy rather than having to go all the way back and then put something in. So I agree with Jeff on this point.
All I said was that it just appears that Elon seems to be proven correct. Not that I think that he should have done that. I'm just saying that's what is happening.
Hey Herbert, can I just quick comment on the X ticker symbol? That if Elon buys U.S. Steel, which he's done much crazier things than that, I don't know how much steel Tesla and SpaceX use, but let's say he does that, the X ticker would go back to the New York Stock Exchange to hand out whoever they want to. But knowing Elon, might say, hey, look, we're going to buy this, but I'd like to reserve that for when X, IPOs in 3-5 years, whenever they come back out.
He may buy the U.S. Stock Exchange.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah.
The fights with Kimball were much more than I had realized over the years. That was the only thing that really sticks out as surprising, just the level of fighting and the number of fights.
Yeah, I agree. The relationship was pretty strained for a while, right? And I didn't realize Justine was a big friction in the beginning. That was an eye opener, and so some of those dealings. So that was a good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, for me, it was chapter 64 about Optimus, and it just confirmed when we saw Elon doing V12 live streaming. And I remember being in the space with Omar and Yaman, and Robert Scoble started freaking out, going, and we're all looking at the car, and he's going, oh my gosh, this is going to change Optimus. And we're like, and I was thinking, what is he talking about? And then in chapter 64, he says, Optimus, would learn to perform tasks not by needing line by line instruction, but would learn like humans and would teach itself. And that would change not only the economy, but the way we live. So for me, that was the big aha moment of this is so much bigger than an automobile company. This is just revolutionizing the way we think and the way we operate moving forward. That was my aha moment.
That was good. Thanks for sharing that.
Did I have this correct regarding Kimball? That did their mother say that they were fighting as adults recently?
Oh yeah, they're getting fist fights in the office according to the book.
But also, I did get that Kimball's a very good brother, right? He cares for Elon. He gave him great advice along the way, and he's, I think he's a good brother at the end of the day.
No, they are. And Omar, while you're here, this is fascinating because you sat down with them. I remember, I watched it numerous times. You sat there with Elon, and then when Kimball came, you were, I think, right next to him. You could tell they are different people. I know they're brothers and they love each other, but you could see when Kimball would speak, Elon was quick to correct him if he got something wrong with, immigration papers, or no, that's not how it went. There is a little dynamic there that you can see. I don't know. Do you want to speak to that a little bit when you were in the room? Did you feel that? Do you feel comfortable sharing something about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not really how I said it. Yeah, he was sitting next to me. And I think they complement each other very well. They obviously have grown up together. They came to the United States, or, when Elon came to Canada, Kimball followed soon after, and they started working together. They were in Silicon Valley together from the beginning. And I think they kind of have complementary traits in many ways. Like, Kimball's more of like the people facing person, you know, more able to sort of get along with people, sort of maintain that role, while Elon was just sort of more hardcore engineering, you know, less, more kind of like antisocial in some ways, but bringing in like sort of a lot of first principles thinking. And I think really the story of how they came and rose up in Silicon Valley is really, you know, that the two of them working together, the complementary nature of the two brothers, and really of the mother as well. Her supporting them. They didn't have much money, but trying to help them get started. And yeah, I think all siblings fight to some extent, but I think they have a pretty good relationship. Both Elon and Kimball, but also May and Tuska. I think they are really kind of tight knit with everything they've been through. And they talked about like some differences in the book, like when, for example, Elon didn't want to fund Kimball's restaurant business, but I'm sure they love each other. But for Elon, that was probably just more of a business decision, and he didn't really think about it as something that had anything to do with family.
Doesn't Kimball have a lot of money or a lot of stock? I think he sells, right?
Yeah, of course.
He does, and he's actually on the board of directors. And I had been speculating. You remember last year there was a period where Elon unfollowed him, and then Kimball unfollowed Elon, and whatever. And I'd been speculating, and there were quite a few people thinking about whether he would maintain his seat on the board, and he did. And I don't think that was ever put really into question. So I think Omar is right. It's just, siblings hashing it out. But when it comes down to business and when it comes down to Tesla, they're both as committed as they've always been.
So why would Kimball want Elon to invest in his restaurant? Wouldn't he just want to keep it all to himself and just de-risk?
No, because Elon has a lot of money to fund it.
I mean, Kimball has a huge passion for food and like natural food, plant a seed day. So this is kind of like his personal passion. It says in the book that he always used to cook for Elon in those tense moments to sort of diffuse the tension. So it's always been a passion for him. According to the book, the restaurants weren't really the biggest money makers. So apparently, his money manager said, "Hey, these restaurants are not looking that good financially. I don't think you should invest." And he said, "Okay, well, then we won't invest." And Kimball's like, "What the hell, man? You're my brother. We really needed you to help lead this round." Yeah. These kinds of things tend to happen, in families. So it's not really that unusual, but it is kind of an amusing story. Doesn't, Elon's kind of like that sometime, whereas most people would maybe feel some emotional empathy towards their siblings or their family. Elon's probably just thinking, this is a business decision. If there's, if there was a business case to be made for why it deserves an investment, then sure. But if it's just going to be a money sink and, require outside capital, that's probably not what's best for the business long term. What's best for the business is for them to really like have to make things sustainable because they're under that constraint.
When I was at Giga Texas, I was at that private party, and I was able to ask both Kimball and Elon a question. I asked them both the question of, are you working on solving world hunger? And Kimball's answer was a definitive yes. The two. I said, "Are you and Elon working on solving world hunger?" And he said, "Yes."
You should ask them if they were going to save humanity.
They are. For Mars, if all of Elon's companies tie into Mars, do we have a solution? Is it just greenhouse stuff that, is this a line of thinking anyone has gone down? What's going to be the solution for food on Mars, or is it just going to?
He may have assigned something to Kimball to look into that, like for the future of like, hey, like how are we going to have sustainable life? How are we going to grow our own food? Maybe Kimball's kicked off some project that's running in the background. It's hard to say. I wanted to switch gears. If that's okay. What does everyone
Sure.
think?
You didn't want to talk about Kimball and the
Go ahead.
Tesla restaurants at the
No, I mean, I
supercharger
thought
making
we
the
were going to
food?
start talking about like the shape of his latest hats and like, where does he get his hats from? And, no, I was going to talk about the UAW strike. And I think Canada, they delayed it, I think like the last minute last night, but I don't know if they've found resolution today or not. But if not, I don't know if anybody has an update on that. But for Ford, they would be going at midnight tonight in Canada. That would be like 5,600 people. Did anybody hear an update on that? And then just were there any other updates on UAW in the U.S.?
Yeah, as far as I know, Jeff, they're not. They're at a standstill. There's some, not the big wigs aren't talking, but there's some lower level talks. But I think right now there's no movement.
Yeah, I think
Isn't
this
that
is going to take a
strange
while.
that they're exactly? But isn't that strange, right? We're now what the second? When did it start? Thursday. We're now Tuesday evening. So Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some points where they kind of step away and want to go work on, I guess there was a response from the UAW, I think Monday, in terms of the deals that were offered Friday, Saturday from the automakers. And remember, I think people need to understand like this is more than just about the 20% versus 35 or 40% wages over 4 years. There's a lot of of items on the table, whether it's the workforce tiers, because again, automakers, they can get around a lot of these wage discussions by just cramming a bunch of people in the lowest tier. So there's tiers on the table. There's how they're going to handle this transition to electrification, the battery factories. There's all these things that that basically affect membership, in the UAW, and membership's been going down. So I think this whole thing's a fascinating discussion. I think it's a fascinating thing of like the media, like they're contorting themselves, like trying to have these conversations because they don't want to like, they're giving, Farley and Mary Barra the opportunity to speak, but when they speak, sometimes they don't sound that great in terms of what they're saying, yet they're doing these gigantic ad spends on these networks that they're talking on. I just find the whole thing fascinating. They're kind of coming off a bit like greedy CEOs, and then the unions are coming off as like, well, you're asking for a whole lot. But I would say labor, I mean, labor deserves something, but at the end of the day, if they're not getting more efficient, like if they're not making a better mousetrap, and when I say they, I mean the auto companies and actual labor themselves, like if they're not coming up with a way to be more efficient, this is kind of just a temporary thing. Like they'll agree to some deal, but is this thing just going to spiral to the bottom, or what we talked about yesterday? They're just going to get bailout after bailout. So I think this whole thing is fascinating. I think it's going to ripple through to other industries as well. They're talking about other unions now are getting all revved up.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. We talked about this yesterday, and we kind of hit all those points. It's a disaster for them, right? Like Tesla's in a great position, right? Like they don't have to deal with all this. And you're 100% right. The unions are trying to extract whatever they can, right? No matter what. And there's no efficiency. There's no nothing. It's just a money grab while they can get it, right? While these companies still have, cash flow. And I think we heard a report today, you have Biden in there who's a big union guy. He's probably putting pressure probably on the management to get something done. And, it's just a fiasco, right? And this is the opposite of what capitalism, and this is like what I've been talking about a little bit, quasi-socialism, right? We're like, and Tesla's the complete opposite of this. So again, this is just showing legacy auto versus what Tesla is. And it's just night and day. You made some great points.
I just want to add to the view thing. It's kind of side note to what Jeff is saying is that I think the legacy autos are going to have a bigger issue. You've never seen this with Toyota because Toyota goes to an area where there are no unions and pays better than the average pay of the standard of living of that area. So both parties benefit. Toyota could pay less than what they would pay in the higher regions. For that area, the local people that they're hiring, it's a higher wage for them. So you don't need a union because the union takes the cut in between. And then right now the union becomes a whole nother revenue stream. The entity itself is like a revenue stream within itself that's taking from the employees. So you can never get the same kind of pay as a company that well for the employees. Like Tesla is one of them. They pay better than the average in the industry. And I spoke with an employee before that used to work at one of the legacy autos years ago, and she needs some medical device stuff. She doesn't get the cheapest one like before. Tesla gave the best one, like the highest quality of the medical device. So even the health benefits that they have is superior to what the legacy autos have. So when you see where the money goes, and that's to retain employees. So all these media stuff that's always saying bad stuff about Tesla, that's actually not true. In the general majority of the time, Tesla is superior on the pay and the benefits. So I think the UAW strike. I don't know how this is going to pan out to be better going forward, especially when the business isn't raking in as much money. Won't be. So I think it's going to be another opportunity for Tesla to hire some people too as they ramp up for Cybertruck and the other factories.
Yeah, it's almost comical. You see in the media, they're trying to compare, just like hourly wages between companies. Well, where are they? Like, where are the companies actually located? That's a meaningful part of the equation. If it's a proper standard of living or not based on the location they're in. It's comical. Like you do these things, you have to do like 3-year rolling comp views. You have to look at total comp, and they're not doing that. It's too lengthy of a conversation for a 10-second media, attention grabber. So that's, what they're doing. Tesla pays this, Legacy Auto pays that. And everybody's talking like through different numbers. Jim Farley's making it sound like auto workers make $300,000 a year. They don't make $300,000. They don't take home $300,000 a year. So anyway, it's really not being. I think it's really being covered well by the media. And again, there's this cannon, this money printer that's being pointed, and so far 27.2 billion has gone out from the federal government to the big three in the last calendar year. Anywho, do we go back to talking about Kimball?
No, let's bring up other folks. I don't think Brian has had a chance to speak. Do you want to come up? Okay. Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
Come on up.
I spoke about Optimus. I'm good. I'll step down.
Okay, and then Tesla Sweden.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me? Yeah, I agree. I largely agree with the discussion. So I just keep on listening for now. Just great to hear from everybody.
Thank you. Great to hear from you.
Come on, co-hosts.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I'll bring up something. So this is sort of we've had a lot of topics. So I don't know how long more you want to go, Herbert. But so we have the Fed meeting tomorrow. We don't have to get crazy macro, but a little bit. So what are you expecting as far as the market? Maybe Tesla short term. I know we hate to talk short term, but do you think just in general the stock market, Jeff or Alexandra, do you what kind of power are we going to get tomorrow?
I don't think they'll raise rates tomorrow, so I do believe we see an uptrend in all tech stocks, including Tesla. I don't have any, prognostics for the end of the year. I wish I'd have crystal ball, but it doesn't speak a lot.
Crystal
but
ball.
for me,
Alexander hammering Elon for saying the word crystal ball, and here you
yeah,
go saying it.
But I don't have
I
one
think she
either,
planted
right?
that remark in. That was a planted remark.
I did. I also want to just say I do the same than you, Herbert. I put a WH in front of my name to look like Omar, but for me it will say whale, right? Not sure that's going to be really funny. So probably not. So anyway, in my view, today Tesla should be worth already 500, right? So for me, it's really difficult to say is 260 the right price or 280. It doesn't make any sense. The day will come where we're right, and is it in 3 days, 3 months? Do we have to wait 3 years? I don't think so.
I could start right now, Alexandra. I don't know if you're having. I could start to hear the impatience in your voice. You want that stock price up.
I'm hungry, Christian. That's all it is.
So Christian, Alexandra wants double the multiple on the stock. What do you think about that?
Hey, she wants 150, 160 times. I'm with it. I'm down.
Well, so if the economy eases up and people buy cars and interest rates start coming down, earnings go up, and do you need that to wait for that to buy the stock, right? I think that's what Wall Street seems to wait for that, but retail will never wait for that.
I'll give you my opinion, Xander. Again, this is just my opinion. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. The stock goes up, down, sideways, right? That's a line from Wolf of Wall Street. So what I would tell you though is people are looking for this quick move. And I've been talking about this on our show for like, what, 6 months. The Fed is not pivoting, meaning cutting rates. We still have inflation that is a little bit more than what they like. We're talking 3-4% area. They want to get it down to 2. So I agree. Most of the hikes are done, but we might be in this range of higher for longer. And that doesn't mean higher for longer for like a month or two into next year, like middle of 24, before they really, especially if we have a good job market, before they really start cutting rates. So that means mortgages near 8%, car loans higher, credit cards, which is only going to, the cost of financing anything, they're going to slow the economy slowly over the next few quarters. So the stock market to me is kind of in a holding pattern. So could it keep going higher? Of course, if the economy, but I don't know that unless Tesla hits with one of these things, the breakthrough that we've been kind of talking about, I don't know that you see a $500 Tesla stock price on the car business alone, especially when you have rates up here, which is just snagging on sales, right? Because you're always worried about, do they have to cut price? Can people afford, even though these cars are much better value, people still don't have all the know-how. So everyone keeps thinking we're going to see this major run. I'm saying, yeah, buy the stock, hold it if you plan 5-10 years. But what I'm saying, I don't know that we're seeing Tesla at 600 in a year. I would love to be wrong. I own the stock, I own a good bit of it, but I just don't see the catalyst that everyone else is seeing in this environment.
I think it's hard to predict the Fed. I think it's hard. I mean, they at the end of 2021, they had one rate hike in 2022 planned, and then they did 7 of them. So I think it's really hard to predict. I understand that that's a consensus view of no rate reductions until middle of next year. I understand that. I read the same things. I just think it's hard. I agree with you, Christian. I just think it's a difficult thing to forecast. If something, I mean, we haven't had rates at this high and for this long in decades, and going up at this rate, I should say. And so I think there's a lot of unknowns out there. We could get a surprise. It's hard to forecast a surprise, but yeah, I just don't think they know. I just don't think they have the tools to know. And by the way, there's nothing the Fed can do. Right now, food and energy are up. Like there's not a whole lot. I mean, they can raise rates to damper the demand on energy. I think they can do that, but that's a really kind of like a long tail effect. So and then the housing stuff's coming down rapidly. Used cars are coming down. And if they use real rent, for the housing data, like real data, like high frequency data, I think inflation would be like 1%. I think somebody calculated. So I know we've been doing this for months. I just think it's hard to predict. I don't think they're raising rates tomorrow. I think they're done actually. There's the economy. I just don't think the economy is as strong as, whatever, people tout it is. I don't think it's as strong. And I actually think they're done.
Yeah, and I'll just say real quick, Jeff, I agree with you 100%. But what I'm speculating, I know that anything could happen, but they've told us what they've told us, right? We're probably not going to cut through the end of the year. The economy seems to be good, right? Through the data, the job market seems to be good. Of course, all that can change. The only thing I'm saying, if we do have a middle of the road economy, say 2 to 3% GDP or even lower, I don't think they're in a rush unless you're going to get down quickly. And I don't think we're going to get down to 2% inflation anytime soon. I believe you're right. Maybe there's no more hike, but I don't see the impetus for them to cut, because if they start cutting like everybody wants, there's probably a reason why they're cutting, meaning there is either a job market collapse and unemployment spiking, or maybe possible recession fears, or there's some type of credit crisis, which would then cause them to cut, which probably would not be good for the market. So that's the way I'm thinking about it in a probability zone. But you're right. I have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, agree with that effect. Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Let's shut this down. There's a quick message for you, Jeff, from Gary. He said that Interfor is considering offering from Ford Canada, the offer from Ford Canada. So strike deadline has been extended. It was supposed to be last night, midnight. So
Yeah, I know they extended it 24. I don't know if they extended it further, but yeah, thanks, Gary.
Okay. All right, guys, everybody, thank you for joining us. Appreciate everybody and all the speakers. Thanks all. We'll see you guys next
Thanks,
week.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Bye,
Okay,
everyone.
bye-bye, everybody.